Hello and welcome again to Off the Mark with Tuti O and Miss Meeks Kali. On our second part, our two-parter, I'm working on the definitions uh, of certain words from the Black's Law book. A little bit background on the Black's Law Dictionary. Um, it's cited as the secondary legal authority for the U.S. Supreme Court. It was the most widely used. It's the most widely used
Legal law
legal
dictionary
book.
in the
Mm,
United States.
cool. It was published or established in 1891, so it's been around for quite some time. Um, and yeah, so it has some pretty good legal authority there, if you ask me. Miss Khalid, if you'd like to take over, give us a little structure, give us a little idea and background as to exactly what we're dealing with and how to go about it.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, so this is the Black's Law Dictionary, which I highly recommend having a copy of in every household. This is the fourth edition, pocket edition. There's 11 editions currently. It's called Black's because the original founding author was Henry Campbell Black, not because it's referring to laws about Black. And Henry Campbell Black was the initial founder, but it was authored presently by Brian A. Garner, was editor-in-chief on this edition. And essentially, in law, of course, everything needs to be by the letter because when it comes to contracts, you don't want to leave anything to presumption or error. And we are sometimes not always conscious of the way that we are contracting with the world around us when we speak in a conversational manner. So a lot of the words that we use in a conversational way, such as person or Black, when we're identifying ourselves, actually have an entirely different meaning in terms of even status or jurisdiction or things like that, when represented in a court of law. So one of the reasons why they put a Bible in every hotel is so that travelers or visitors could be aware of essentially kind of the de facto law of the land. There's a reason why when you're swearing in court, you have to put your hand on the Bible. So we grow up in, a lot of us in the public education school system, we end up graduating at the end of it 18 years old, we're of age to be tried as an adult, and yet we don't truly even know the laws of the land that we're beholden to. And one of the ways that we become more and more vulnerable and susceptible to entrapping us in those laws is by misrepresenting legal terms in a conversational way. So such things as even identifying as Black, which has obviously been a huge movement that has gained a lot of progress, especially here in 2020 with the Black Lives Matter movement. Black is a status. There's no Black country that you can belong to. And when you represent yourself in court, if you're identifying as a color, you're presenting yourself as colorable in the eyes of the law. Colorable means that you're untrustworthy. So when you identify as Black and represent yourself in court, you're basically outright saying, and everything that I testimony after this is untrustworthy, which is why we're assigned lawyers and others to other representatives to represent us in our standing and our estate in the jurisdiction and amongst our community. So that's why we wanted to take some time to dive into the Black's Laws Dictionary and just bring some more mindfulness to the words that we're using as a conversational way and seeing how it could actually be condemning us. So in pertaining to the current moment with this recent election, one of the most common words that you would see is vote. So when we go to the word vote, it actually means the expression of one's preference or opinion in a meeting or election by ballot, show of hands, or other type of communication. And so a vote is merely the expression of one's preference or opinion. there is no supreme authority there. You're not forwarding any laws or anything. You're just saying, this is how I feel about things, as much as when you give your opinion kind of on your social media account or anywhere on your soapbox. It's just that here, when we have an electoral presidential vote, is the time where they're like, we will listen to your voice at this time in this particular manner. So when, instead of just being told and encouraged to vote and just voice our opinions to the wind, what we really should have been exercising is our duty to elect. So an election is the exercise of that choice, and it's the act of choosing from several possible rights or remedies in a way that precludes the use of other rights or remedies. And also, an election is the doctrine by which a person is compelled to choose between accepting a benefit under a legal instrument and restraining some property right to which the person is already entitled. So essentially, by an election, it's the exercising of the choice. So usually we have our electoral college, we have our representatives do the actual electing, and it's at their discretion how much they listen to the vote. But even after that, the doctrine that results from the election is an agreement which a person is compelled to choose between accepting a benefit under a legal instrument, which retaining some property to which the person already entitled. So right or property that somebody already had, they're putting underneath a legal instrument to supersede their relationship between themselves, that right, and the benefit that they receive from having that right and exercising that right. Now, another thing that people have been very concerned about over the course of this election is defending our democracy, that our democracy was at risk. And we've even been identifying as a democratic nation. Well, many years ago, when we used to listen to Alex Jones, he would often say that a democracy is nothing more than two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner, because essentially a democracy is supposed to represent an equal tally of votes. But okay, so in the Black Laws Dictionary, democracy is defined as government by the people, either directly or through representatives elected by the people. So a democracy is not our own government of we the people, by the people, for the people. It's the representatives that we've so elected, that we've so given away our rights to for the legal instrument of that representative to provide a certain benefit. And what is that benefit? That they're in the courtrooms, they're having the conversations that we're not having. They're making the decisions that we're not deciding for ourselves. So another part of government is that it's combining, it's of a federal state. So a state is a political system of body of people who are politically organized, the system of rules by which jurisdiction and authority are exercised over such a body of people. So a state is basically an agreement that an authority rules over that collective of something, that organization. A state can either be a group, such as each of the 50 states of the United States, or a state can be any smaller group or political system, or estate, such as your personal own individual sovereign estate. And ultimately, what we're trying to bring full circle here is that, okay, well, as opposed to a democracy, let's look at a republic. So a republic instead is a system of government in which the people hold sovereign power and elect representatives who exercise that power. So I'm no lawyer, but what I'm gathering from those two definitions is that a democracy is either, depending if you're so inclined, we the people voting for a government of the people, or as is the case with a presidential election, having representatives exercise that decision and power, versus a republic where the people hold sovereign power and the elected representatives, instead of making those decisions on behalf of the people, are merely exercising that power that the sovereigns have already decided and deemed for them. So what is a sovereign?
That was going to be my question, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a sovereign, and of course it's the one I didn't bookmark. The suspense. So a sovereign is a person, body, or state again, vested with independent and supreme authority, the ruler of an independent state. Sovereign people are the political body consisting of the collective number of citizen and qualified electors who possess the powers of sovereignty and exercise them through their chosen representatives. So, as we've observed, our government is consisting generally of lawyers, lawmakers, people that are familiar with the legal system. And so just like they are able to exercise and practice law, we each, as a conscientious individual, must represent ourselves in a court of law, either our own self, being our own lawyer, or having a lawyer provided to us if we are incapacitated as such to do so. So essentially, every person has an estate. Every person that needs a sovereign to rule it. But it is up to us whether we choose to exercise that authority to rule over our own sovereign state, or whether we choose to subject that to somebody else to be a representative for us of our own sovereign state. And what they've conditioned us through conversational language with such words as persons and citizens and things like that, instead of, you don't hear sovereign generally out in the general public in daily conversation, more so now, but certainly not prior. That I guess our task now, and our kind of, as we were going with the election, a lot of people would kind of be offended that when I would have criticisms of both candidates, and they would assume by having a criticism of one candidate that it inherently meant that I was voting or promoting the other candidate. And then a lot of people were just bamboozled or baffled by me having criticisms of both, or saying that I wasn't going to vote at all, only because I was choosing not to contract with that. But people be like, well, what do you suggest? Like, we have to pick something, and they would think of it almost like idealistic or quixotic to think that you can't only choose between the lesser of two evils. And in the conversations that we've been having with people, I think we've both been really trying to push for people to think of, like, what is that secret option number 3? Like, there's another door there. We're just not seeing it, or open-minded enough to even think that there could be such a thing. So I think this is kind of where we're touching on, and neither of us claim necessarily to be experts. We're just researching, exploring, and using the tools that we have available to us to try and explore and gain our understanding, and help share some of these so that if this flashlight helps you shine into your darkness as well, like, may it serve. But yeah, we'd like to dive into this even more on future episodes about what it means to be sovereign, how to reclaim our sovereignty that is our own birthright, and yeah, for those that want it, but otherwise, if we don't, there is such a thing as the government to be that safety net for people. So in this, we're not saying, like you were saying, anarchy is illogical. Like, thank God there is such a thing as government in a sense, but it's kind of like that George Washington quote about fire being like a wonderful tool but fearsome master kind of thing. And same thing with wisdom, that you can either be slave to it or you can be the master of it. So same thing with government. So depending on how we exercise and relate to it and dominate it, will determine whether we can utilize it as a tool and ignite our way into a new dawn, or whether, yeah, it's going to burn the house down.
Right. And the way we're utilizing democracy now, as it goes, uh, it isn't that far-fetched to think of that Alex Jones quote you said about the two wolves fighting over what's for dinner. I don't remember specifically what you said, but it's not an uncommon phrase to say, "Oh, I voted for the lesser of two evils."
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a third option, and most of us, myself included, as as up to a few years ago, didn't know what those options are, what those legal options are, for us, as a sovereign nation, which are just words we heard when we were in grade school that we know nothing real about. So thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kali. Kamiko, that was
Thank you.
amazing. That was informative, amazing. Thank you so much. I can't wait to dive deeper into more of these legal terms that will hopefully, like we said, come full circle. That's the whole point of all of this, is for everything to just to find the connections and fundamental truth. So thank you again. Where can we find you?
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm at wild_flourish. And Queen Tootie, where can we find you?
I am at Tootie O My Hero on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of it. You can find the podcast at Off the Mark Cast on Instagram. We do have a link to the episodes that we have done so far. Thank you guys again for taking the time to spend some time with us. We hope you took some notes, and we hope it was beneficial to you. Again, thank you, Ms. Kali, and you guys have a good one.